Hey guys, it's John from the VisiCast, and today we are going to be doing a review of Gathering Storm 3 Rise of the Primarch. So in this video we are going to be talking about the new characters in the book, some of the formations, the tactics that go with that, giving you insight into that side of things. If you want to know about the narrative and the fluff inside this book, I suggest you just buy and read it. But yeah, we will be going through some of the cooler gameplay mechanics in this video. We are going to start by looking at the characters, and the first character in the book you come across is Cypher. Now, Cypher is 190 points, and his stat line is pretty damn good. So he has weapon skill 7, so he's going to beat most things. Ballistic skill 10, which is incredible, basically a 2+ rerollable to hit. Strength 4, toughness 4, only 3 wounds, so he can be a bit squishy. Initiative 8, so he's always going to be hitting first pretty much. 3 attacks, leadership 10, and a 3+ save. Now, looking at his profile here, he doesn't have any sort of invulnerable save, so it does look like he will be able to take him down fairly easily. Essentially, he's about as strong as 3 Space Marines, which isn't brilliant at first glance. He does have Shrouded, so that'll always give him a 5+ cover save, and obviously if he's in ruins or something like that, that could give him potentially a 2+ cover save, so that would depend how you move him around the battlefield. And he has Infiltrate, so you could easily infiltrate him into some ruins to make sure he gets that 2+ off the bat. However, a lot of Ignor's cover is out there, and a lot of AP3 is out there. So at first glance, it looks like it's going to be quite easy to kill Cypher. And for 190 points, something you can kill that easily is a little bit of a point sink, or could be a little bit of a point sink. I suppose it depends how you play him. If you compare Cypher to someone such as from the first Gathering Storm book, Saint Celestine. Saint Celestine is only 200 points, so that's 10 more points. She has a 2+ save with a 4+ invulnerable save, as well as, I can't remember how many wounds, but she also has 2 bodyguards who come back every turn, or at least one of them comes back every turn. So she has a almost infinitely refilling pool of wounds, depending on how long it takes you to take them away from her. Then, if Saint Celestine dies, she can come back to life, essentially. Whereas Cypher is as tough as 3 Space Marines for 10 points less. So just from a survivability and points cost standpoint, Cypher looks like he's a little bit of a point sink if you compare him to other models we've been seeing recently. Additionally, just by taking Cypher, he has this rule, as ye sow, ye shall reap. Now what that means is he can never be your warlord, and your actual warlord suffers a -1 penalty to their leadership. Very, very interesting that GW have done this sort of rule, that there's a bit of a drawback to including something powerful in your army. So it's an interesting approach, but you're already taking a bit of a hit by taking him. Now, as next special rule, Blazing Weapons, Cypher can shoot both of his pistols twice in each shooting phase, or he can fire them one each either before or after making a run move. So he's a little bit more manoeuvrable. It's kind of like Battle Focus in a way, I guess. And also when making Overwatch, he uses his full ballistic skill. And in the assault phase, half of Cypher's close combat attacks, rounding up, are strength 4 AP5, and all remaining attacks are strength 7 AP2. That's to obviously indicate that he's using his 2 pistols in close combat as well. His 2 pistols is just essentially a bolt pistol and a plasma pistol. They are a mysterious relic, and their stat line is: the bolt pistol is slightly longer at 16 inches, but still, other than that, just a pistol, strength 4 AP5. And the plasma pistol, 12 inches, strength 7 AP2. So if you're looking at his shooting capabilities and hoping you can get a lot out of that, even though he gets to fire them both twice, that's still only 2 strength 4 AP5 shots and 2 strength 7 AP2 shots a turn, which is a total of 4 shots from a 190 point model. Again, I don't think that's that brilliant, to be perfectly honest, especially if you look at his, let's have a quick check. Yeah, that's it. If you look at his stats, he doesn't have, and that's what he uses in close combat. So in close combat, he is admittedly making strength 7 AP2 attacks. That's pretty good. It looks like you want to get him into combat pretty quickly. And it looks like that's how he's intended to be played, especially if you look at his special rules. Obviously, he's got a They Shall Know No Fear. He does have Eternal Warrior, which means that despite those 3 wounds, he'll only lose 1 at a time, which is a bonus. He has Fleet and Hit and Run. So if you take into account the fact that he has Fleet, Hit and Run, Infiltrate and Shrouded, it does mean that he could get into combat quite easily. However, and once he's in combat, he'll probably do quite a good job with Initiative 8. And with the amount, well, I suppose not that many attacks, and then not re-rollable attacks either. So he's probably better suited in combat, but you've got to get him in combat, and with only 3 wounds, that's not brilliant. Now, something I really like, and I didn't know this was going to be in here, is something called In Pursuit of the Fallen. So if you are using Cypher, and your opponent, obviously Cypher can't be in a Dark Angel's army at all under any circumstances. However, if your opponent has models from the Dark Angels faction, you add in additional secondary objectives. This is really cool because this is super narrative. I really like this, and it actually changes how the game is played by adding those extra points. So I really, really like this, and I kind of want to put this on the channel. Now, in Pursuit of the Fallen, these additional points, it's at any cost. The following secondary objectives are used in addition to any others. If Cypher is captured by a Dark Angels model, the player whose army includes the Dark Angels scores 3 victory points. Now, if you're playing Dark Angels against someone with Cypher in, and Divine Protection basically is, I'll tell you that quickly, if there is an enemy model within D6 of Cypher when he loses his last wound or is otherwise removed as a casualty, Cypher is assumed to have been captured alive. If there are no enemy units within that range, basically he escapes and you can't get any VPs for killing him. So, for example, if you're paying kill points and he escapes, you wouldn't get anything for that. So if you capture him as a Dark Angels player, you can score 3 victory points. Now, as he's only as tough as 3 Space Marines, essentially, that seems very easy for a Dark Angels player, just from me thinking initially. I could be wrong, it could be something I'm not seeing, but to begin with, this is what I'm getting from it. Next up, if the Cypher is forced to escape or is captured by a model that is not a Dark Angels model, neither side receives any victory points. That's absolutely fine, makes sense. And if Cypher is neither captured nor forced to escape before the end of the battle, the player whose army includes Cypher scores D3 victory points. So it's nice that if you keep Cypher alive, you will get some points. However, you get D3, and if your opponent kills him, you get 3. Guaranteed. So it is slightly more in the favour of the Dark Angels in terms of getting those additional points, especially considering, and I keep saying it, Cypher seems a little bit squishy in the current meta at least. Additionally, all Dark Angels models with the Deathwing special rule also receive the Zealot special rule. Zealot is obviously re-rolling to hit in the first round of combat, which is really, really useful. I use that in a lot of my armies. Obviously, you know, my main army is Ravenwing, and Zealot is an incredible rule. So that's quite a strong rule. You don't see too many Deathwing around. However, Dark Angels characters pretty much all have the Deathwing special rule, so it does mean that your characters will be re-rolling to hit in combat, which is nice. Additionally, that would, if one model in the unit has Zealot, it would carry on over to the other models in the unit. So it's just another bonus to the Dark Angels. So if you are going up against Dark Angels, you're almost helping them out by taking Cypher. But from a narrative standpoint, pretty interesting and cool decision. So in addition to Cypher, again a bit more narrative, you can take Fallen as a unit. Now Fallen, 100 points for 5. They're basically Space Marines. There's a couple of very, very, very minor differences. Other than that, just your bog standard Space Marine. Essentially, they get 2 attacks instead of 1. But other than that, your standard loadout for a Space Marine and Leadership 10, I suppose. The one thing I can see here that is slightly different, up to 4 Fallen may choose one of the following 4 options, and you have a whole host of things you can take. So you can replace your bolt pistol with a plasma pistol, close combat weapons like Power Fist, Lightning Claws, Flamer, Melter Gun, Plasma Gun. So you can essentially turn that unit into like a, not a Devastator squad or anything like that, but you can max it out with special weapons. There are less restrictions. Obviously, if you're looking at standard Space Marines, every 5 you can take like a special weapon and a heavy weapon. But in this, you have a lot more to choose from. So, although to be fair, you can still only have one replaced with like a heavy bolter melter gun, so only one can have a heavy weapon, but you could max out with melter guns, plasma guns, flamers, that sort of thing. So that's quite useful. So Fallen Champions, this is a formation that brings together the two units we've seen so far, Cypher and Fallen. I forget to add, the Fallen do not have a They Shall Know No Fear, so they will be subject to leadership tests and regrouping. However, with this formation, Cypher and 1 to 3 units of Fallen, Special Rules Infiltrate and Fallen Leader. Any unit from this formation that is within 12 inches of Cypher has the And They Shall Know No Fear and Stubborn Special Rules. So you can get And They Shall Know No Fear, making them pretty much bog standard Space Marines. However, you have to stay within range of Cypher. So we finished with the Fallen stuff and we move on to the Grey Knights part in this Gathering Storm book, starting out with Grand Master Voldus, who is the Warden of the Librarians for the Grey Knights. Slightly more expensive, he is 240 points, so we're going up in points values here. Essentially, he is just a Grey Knight Librarian for most of his stats and his special rules war gear. However, there are a few additional things. So his stat line is Weapon Skill 6, Ballistic Skill 5, Strength 4, Toughness 4. Again, only 3 wounds, Initiative 5, 4 attacks, Leadership 10, 2+. Obviously, he's in Terminator armor, so he'll get a 5 up, and he has an Iron Halo, which bumps it up to a 4+. However, there is no Eternal Warrior, so a Melter Gun, and then failing a save on a 4+ would insta-jib him. He would be out of the game, which is a lot for 240 points. He basically has a standard loadout you would find for a Grey Knight Librarian, including Psych Out Grenades, which obviously affect other Psychers. He is Mastery level 3. However, there is a rule here called Lawmaster. Voldus knows 1 more power than is normal for his Mastery level. This must be generated from the Demonology, I'll get there, Sanctic Discipline. You'll realise that my screens keep going up and this thing keeps popping in and out. So continuity for the win. Basically, that means he's going to be generating 4 powers. One of them has to be from Demonology, Sanctic. However, the other ones can be from Demonology, Sanctic, Divination, Fulmination, Geokinesis, Librarius, Pyromancy, Technomancy, Telekinesis, and Telepathy, as you'd normally find. So he is quite a strong Psycho, let's be honest. Additionally, he has a Relic of Titan. This is his close combat weapon. 2 times strength, which makes him strength 8 in close combat, AP 2 with melee, force, concussive, demon bane, and specialist weapon. Again, I don't see him being as effective. If you compare him to other models we've seen, I keep going back to Celestine, who is coming very shortly to the channel. Look forward to seeing that. For the points cost, I don't think he's that survivable. Some of these figures like Cypher and Grandmaster Voldus, whilst they do have a fair bit of power, they do seem a tiny bit, in my opinion, overcosted. I might be wrong, I probably am, who knows, no one's right really. But if you have a different opinion, you think this is accurately costed, if you see some way you could use him, which is very effective and therefore means he is worth those amount of points, please write in the comments below, let us know what you think. Next up, we have a formation for the Grey Knights, the Bulwark of Purity. Now, this is comprised of a Librarian. The Librarian must have the Grey Knights faction and must wear Terminator armor. No unit in this formation can take a dedicated transport. Additionally, it is formed of 2 units of Paladins and 2 units of Grey Knight Terminators. So you're creating a very, very elite army with this formation. You do get some rules for it. You get the Bulwark formation. While 3 or more units from this formation are on the battlefield, you can add 1 to the result when making Deny the Witch test, so a little bit more psychic resiliency. And Aura of Purity, while 3 or more units from this formation are on the battlefield, if any unit from this formation successfully manifests the Banishment psychic power, all units with the Demon special rule within 12 inches of any unit from this formation are affected. Honestly, I don't think the Grey Knight stuff in here is that brilliant. You get 1 new character who is a bit of a boss from a psychic point of view, but he is quite expensive as well. I can't remember off the top of my head the cost of a normal Librarian in the Grey Knight Codex if you upgrade him to have roughly the same war gear. But the fact he is Mastery level 3 is a bonus, I guess, I don't know. So, not blown away by Voldus and that formation. I don't think we're going to see it that much. Elite armies in the current meta don't do particularly well. Well, they kind of do, but Terminator-based ones will not do particularly well, unfortunately, and you don't really get much out of those additional formation rules. They're going to be very, very specific. If you are facing demons, and admittedly, if you were playing it like that, it would make sense and it would be quite useful. However, it's not a formation that's going to affect a majority of your play. Now, they've also added a bit called Demonic Adversaries to the Grey Knight part of the book, and this basically allows you to make games a little bit more narrative by, if you have Grey Knights versus an army that isn't demons, you can essentially make sense out of that from a narrative perspective. So it basically implies that the army you're against is kind of possessed, and gives you some rules around that to change the game slightly. Obviously, this won't affect every game, and this only comes into play if both players agree on it. However, all it's doing is buffing the other side. So, for example, Demonic Possession, you get to upgrade characters to Psychic Mastery level 1 with the Demon Special for free, or you can pay to get them to Psychic Mastery level 2 with the Demon Special for 25 points. Also, the Adversary, who are the possessed, the people who will be playing against Grey Knights, can take the following option for any independent characters within their army that are already Psychers. There are some exceptions, not every army can take this. You can upgrade people with the Demon Special rule for free. And there's a Demonic Incursion, which means at the beginning of each of their psychic phases, the adversary or the person not playing Grey Knights rolls a dice and adds the current turn number, and there's essentially like a warp storm table that you might be familiar with demons. So all that does is it buffs the player who isn't playing Grey Knights by giving them some additional cool rules. Grey Knights aren't the most powerful codex out there right now, so from a competitive standpoint, although you never use this in a competitive environment, but if you were playing a game and you wanted it to be balanced, giving your opponent a few extra rules for nothing while you're playing a codex that isn't brilliant currently, it isn't brilliant. So I don't imagine many people use that, but if you do constantly play against a Grey Knight player and you want to spice it up a little bit like you would in the bedroom, get Demonic Adversaries involved. We move on to what everyone is really here to see, Guilliman. He is the first Primarch ignoring Magnus in 40k, to my knowledge. I've only been playing for, say, 4 years, but to my knowledge, we've never had a Primarch. Now, he's 350 points, so we're getting slightly more expensive. However, 350 points, I don't think is bad for what you're about to hear. Now, his stat line, weapon skill 9, obviously this is all seen, Games Workshop released this all a little while ago. Other than that, he's pretty much 6 across the board. Ballistic skill 6, strength 6, toughness 6, wounds 6, initiative 6, attack 6, leadership 10 with a 2+ save. He is a monstrous creature, and he is a Lord of War. So he's always going to be on his own, pretty much. Now, special rules. He has Adamantium Will, making him a little bit more psychically resilient. Chapter Tactics, Ultramarines, Eternal Warrior, so again, you can only strip 1 wound per shot off him. Fearless, Feel No Pain, Fleet, Precision Shots, Precision Strikes, and Preferred Enemy Chaos. So he's got a lot going for him, let's be honest, and for a Primarch you would be expecting that. He is the Lord Commander of the Imperium, and as a result, friendly units from the armies of the Imperium re-roll failed morale checks and fear and pinning tests while Guilliman is on the battlefield. He is a massive, massive force multiplier, but it doesn't stop there. We move on to Primarch of the 13th Legion. You can choose to enact the Devastator, Assault and Tactical Doctrines once each per game, in addition to any you can already use. And when these are enacted, all Ultramarine armies in your army are affected. So this guy is a massive force multiplier for Ultramarines. So things like, for example, the Sky Hammer formation, if you went all Ultramarines, in addition you get some nice little bonus rules out of this, which is quite cool. That's already quite a powerful formation that's been seen in tournaments quite a lot. He has Unyielding Will. Guilliman's leadership is not subject to negative modifiers of any kind, so no Psychic Shriek shenanigans as an example, and he may re-roll failed deny the witch test. So again, more Psychic resiliency. He is going to be rolling, I believe, Adamantium Will. That'll be a 5+ re-rollable to deny the witch tests. And this is quite big, could be better, but it's still quite big. Warlord trait, Absolute Mastery. Guilliman has all of the command traits from the Warhammer 40,000, the rules. Now, command traits aren't usually seen that much in games. I suppose usually people go strategic. Strategic has a lot on it, or tactical, depending on what you're sort of aiming to do, what missions you're playing. Command traits aren't seen as much generally, so it's not as good as if you were getting strategic, all of them for free. And command traits mainly focus around your model being an inspiring presence, which makes complete sense. He's a force multiplier, as we've seen with his rules, so it's a continuation of that. Basically, he confers a little bit extra to those around you, but the command traits aren't brilliant, so it's not super powerful, but there might be the odd situation here and there whereby it's quite useful to have those additional little things. And you know what you're getting from him, so you can plan to those warlord's traits. So moving on to the relics that Guilliman is going to be using, he has the Emperor's Sword and the Hand of Dominion. These weapons are used together using the following profile. So range dash, close combat obviously, strength 10 AP1. So in combat he has strength 10 AP1, so that is 6 attacks at strength 10 AP1. That's pretty nice, especially considering he has weapon skill 9 and he's got precision strikes. So he is a beast in close combat against vehicles, against characters, anything. He's going to rip through them. Melee, Armor Bane, Concussion, Soul Blaze, Torch of the Emperor and Whirling Flame are the additional rules you get with this weapon. Some of those are just standard rules. However, Touch of the Emperor, any attacks with this weapon with a hit roll of 6 are resolved at strength D rather than strength 10, even better. And Whirling Flame in the fight subphase, rather than making attacks normally, Guilliman can make a number of attacks with his weapon against each enemy unit engaged in his combat equal to the number of models from that unit within 1 inch of him. That's cool. So, I don't know, it's going to be quite difficult to get more in range of him. So he has 6 attacks base, but instead of making those 6 attacks, or 7 on the charge I guess, he can make a number of attacks with his weapon against each enemy unit engaged in his combat equal to the number of models from that unit within 1 inch of him. I don't see many, I haven't got the models and I can't test this right now, but I don't see many instances where you get more attacks by doing that, even with Horde armies, because you've got the little bases. I don't think you're going to get above 6. You might be able to ease out 1 or 2 additional ones. That's more placement. So I doubt that will come into play too much. Again, I might be wrong. If you think so, let me know. Then we have the Hand of Dominion, can also be used as a ranged weapon using the profile below. It may be used as both a melee weapon and a ranged weapon in the same turn. If you use it as a ranged weapon, it's 24 inches, strength 6, AP 2. Assault 3, Rending. Rending seems odd considering it's already AP 2, but fair enough, maybe that's for vehicles or something, I don't know. Because if you roll a 6, you could roll an additional D3, I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then his armour, now you've probably heard about this already. Armour of Fate confers a 3+ invulnerable save, so he has a 2+ with a 3+ invulnerable save, making him a lot more resilient than Cypher and the Grey Knight Librarian we've just seen. Obviously more points, but you're getting so much more out of this guy. In addition, if he is slain, place a marker next to where he was slain, or where he was slain. At the beginning of your next turn, roll a dice. On a 4 or more, Guilliman is restored by his armour. Place him as close as possible to the marker, more than 1 inch from any units, with D3 wounds remaining. Otherwise, he is slain. If the marker is on the battlefield at the end of the game, he is considered slain. So I suppose you could, if you wanted to get rid of him, place him as close as possible to the marker. It doesn't say if he can't be placed, he is destroyed, to be perfectly honest, so you couldn't even kill him and then boost stuff on top of the marker as an example to try and kill him that way. There's pretty much always going to be a chance, 50% chance of him popping back to life with D3 wounds. And considering he's such a beast, that is quite nice. So Guilliman is a boss, basically. He is an absolute boss, and it's going to be very interesting to see him on the battlefield. So now we move on to some of the formations for this book. We have the Triumvirate of the Primarch, which is obviously all those characters. We've seen this in the Gathering Storm 1 and Gathering Storm 2. Cypher, Grandmaster Voldus and Guilliman. We have the specials Touched by Fate. You can reroll 1 failed saving throw each turn for each model from this formation. That's quite cool, although because of Cypher's limitations, I don't know, this is a huge points cost. You're looking at 200, I'm bad at maths. You're looking at a lot of points just for those 3 models. So whilst you get that re-roll, probably not worth it for the points if I'm being completely honest. Inspiring Presence. Whilst Grandmaster Voldus and Guilliman are on the battlefield, all friendly units with the armies of the Imperium rule have the Stubborn special. Again, not amazing. I don't think we're going to see the Triumvirate at first glance coming in. Now, Victrix Guard. This is all just referencing, it's a new formation, not using anything from this book, just a brand new formation. It's an elite formation. I assume it ties in with the narrative. Basically, Captain Sicarius from Codex Space Marines, 1 unit of Honor Guard, 4 units of Stern Guard or Stern Guard veterans or Vanguard veterans in any combination, and you get the special rules. Fight like demigods, add 1 to the weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristics of all models in this formation, and the Primarch's chosen while a unit from this formation is within 3 inches of Guilliman, he can make lookout Sir rolls as if he was part of that unit. Again, nice little bonus. I'm not blown away by that. We might see this a little bit more often. People like running those elite Stern Guard, Vanguard units, so this is a way of doing it in a formation. I suppose it gives you some small benefits. The adding 1 to weapon skill and ballistic skill are probably the best thing you're going to get out of that, to be perfectly honest. Next up, we have some special rules and relics for the Ultramarines. We just have the Warlord traits table for the Ultramarines. And then there's that, Warlord trait, Noble Visage. Your Warlord and all friendly units within 12 inches of your Warlord with the faction that's part of the armies of the Imperium must reroll fail morale checks, morale tests, pinning tests, and fear tests. So that's, again, more leadership modification. Your Warlord has a counter-attack special rule is another one. Warlord has a preferred enemy special rule. Master of Strategy. This is cool. You can add 4 to any roll to seize the initiative. That's haggard. So you'd be seizing the initiative on a 2 plus? No, surely not. Add 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What? Right. Yeah, I didn't think that was... Wow. So you can add 4 to any roll to seize the initiative. You're seizing the initiative on a 2 plus. That's ridiculous. Yeah, you could do some massive shenanigans with that. Give your opponent the first turn. I didn't think you could do this, but someone said you could. If I'm wrong, tell me the page number, or if it's in an FAQ. I believe if you give someone the first turn, I thought you couldn't then seize, but apparently you can. So you could, if you have this Warlord trait, obviously you're rolling for it, there's no guarantee you're going to get it. If you could, that would be insane. Seize on a 2 plus, wow. And I suppose you could have some shenanigans to make that rerollable, but very, very specific if you could do that. It's not going to be super easy. Master of Tactics. As long as your Warlord is alive at the beginning of each of your turns, you can discard an active tactical objective. If you do so, you can generate a new tactical objective. That's brilliant. That's really good. And re-roll this result when not using a mission, so not playing Maelstrom basically. And Adept of the Codex, your Warlord and friendly units within 6 inches of him have the split fire special rule. So that Warlord table is actually pretty powerful. The Ultramarines are getting a bit of a buff here, it looks like, which is quite cool. Over to their relics. I'm going to go through this very quickly. There are a few things that don't really do much, I'll be honest. However, the things that really stand out, or the thing that really stands out to me, is the Standard of Macragge, which is basically friendly Ultramarines units within 12 inches of the bearer of this standard add 1 to their leadership characteristic. Woohoo! It looks like there's going to be a lot of ways to increase their leadership to things like leadership 10 if you're taking Guilliman and maybe some of these Warlord traits. However, in addition, the bearer and his units have +1 attack while the bearer is alive. Finally, roll a dice each time a friendly Ultramarines infantry model is killed within 6 inches of this standard. Before removing the model as a casualty on a 5+, that Marine can make an out-of-sequence shooting attack if it is the movement, psychic or shooting phase, or pile in and make its attacks if it is the fight sub-phase. So there's only a chance it's not as good as Ynnari just getting that for free, because Eldar are ridiculously overpowered and they didn't need that. 60 points, you have to actually pay for it as well, so it's not amazing, but it's quite a cool little mechanic there. It would be very interesting to see that in a game, definitely. Next up, we have the Victrix Strike Force detachment. This is a Decurion style way of building your army with, it's mainly comprised of formations. I'll be honest, at first glance, the benefits you get for running this Decurion style isn't amazing. I'm not really blown away. You get perfect doctrine. You can choose to enact Devastator, Assault and Tactical doctrines once per game. And while they are enacted, all Ultramarine models in your army are affected. Same thing Guilliman does. In addition, you can choose to enact any combination of these doctrines in any of your turns. So you could, for example, enact the Assault and the Devastator doctrine in the same turn. Which is alright, I guess, but I'm not completely blown away. Objective secured, which you'd get if you had a CAD anyway. All non-vehicle units in this detachment have the objective secured special rule. Actually, reading that again, that's pretty good. So all non-vehicle units in this detachment have the objective secured special rule. That means your elites, that means your fast attack. So that actually is quite big. And Son of Ultramar, if this detachment is your primary detachment, you can choose to reroll the result on the Warlord trait table, which is pretty standard. Now the composition, you need 1 core at least, but it's 1+, so no limit on the maximum. The cores are the Battle Demi Company and the Strike Force Ultra, and the auxiliary, which you need 1 to 10, are Strike Force Command, Reclusium Command Squad, and Librarius Conclave. So you could take something like a Battle Demi Company, which gives you its own benefits. This is off the top of my head. I haven't played a Battle Demi Company, but I believe that's when we get free transport, so people do take that quite a lot because you get a lot of extra value. And then, for example, the Librarius Conclave is fairly regularly seen to, if you were taking those anyway, you lose nothing by taking the Victrix Strike Force, but you gain objective secured for all models that aren't vehicles, which is incredible. That's really, really useful. And then you have, they were command, which is 0 to 3, so you don't have to take that. Auxiliary, got that slightly wrong. Auxiliary are the Victrix Guard, Armoured Task Force, 1st Company Task Force, Anti-Air Defence, 10th Company, Storm Wing, Suppression Force, Land Raider Spearhead, and Centurion. So you have to take one of those. It will depend on what you usually play, I suppose. You could probably figure something out, maybe a Battle Demi Company and a 1st Company Task Force, but I haven't done the maths in terms of the points values to see whether it is worth it or not. But you could get the objective secured on everything is quite a big bonus. Now that is the end of the book. We have some tactical objectives for the Ultramarines. And in addition to that, prior to the rules for the characters, you have some missions. So you have the narrative ones, Echoes of War, where you can play very specific things relating to this codex. Some of them huge. So there's one here called The Final Bridge, where you need, I think I counted earlier, you need 12 tiles to play it. They tell you what your armies should include. So very specific for these Echoes of War missions, which means I doubt they'll get much play, which is unfortunate because they do look very, very interesting. And there's one particularly interesting one called Amidst a Sea of Storms. The build of the map you'd be playing on is really interesting. So I'd love to see it, but I doubt we will. Then we have the Cataclysm of War missions. Cataclysm of War missions are less specific, so it just looks like it adds some more game types similar to Maelstrom or Eternal War. But yeah, they're a very slightly different way to play. I would check those out. I'm not going to go through those because I think this video has been long enough. So that is Gathering Storm, Rise of the Primarch. Highlight of the book is definitely Guilliman. The other things I personally don't think we're going to see too much of. I might be horribly wrong, and some of you might be shouting at the screen, and if you are, let me know. Definitely, I'd be interested to hear that. But yeah, I think if we compare it, each book has had one thing that really stands out. Maybe two. So Gathering Storm 1, we had Saint Celestine and we had Belsarius, and both of those guys are a boss, especially for their points cost. If you're comparing those to the characters found in here, such as Cypher and the Grey Knight Librarian, there's no competition. They're better. Cypher and the Librarian I don't think are amazing. I'm not completely blown away. Second book we had Ynnari as a faction, which is ridiculous, giving all those extra rules to Eldar and allowing them to shift up the way they build their armies. That was massive. And in this book the biggest thing and the thing that stands out is definitely Guilliman, and I would love to see him on the table because that would be incredible to see him play, to see how he actually affects the game. But yeah, that's it, guys. We do battle reports. Turn this back on. We do battle reports, we do tactic reviews, and we do videos, like comedy videos as well. So you need to go check those out. You need to also press subscribe, because subscribe means that you get loads of free content. It costs you literally nothing, and it takes us a lot of time, and we do it for the love. So if you press subscribe, it means a lot to us. It really does. If you can comment and if you can share, brilliant. We are sponsored by War Games, who are the ones who supplied this lovely book, in addition to some other stuff I ordered. War Games are a discount store, so you can get stuff cheaper than you would at GW, so why would you not? It is linked below, so you can go down there and you can check them out. Just give it a little check out. And then we are also on Patreon. Patreon is a way that you can give something back. So if you do watch our battle reports, you do like these videos, you can give something like $3 a month. And basically it means we can do more of them. So if you do like the channel and you want to help support it, I know there's a lot of you guys out there who are regular watchers, and our audience is growing massively. We're now on 5,000 subscribers. Make sure you head over there and do that. Cheers for watching, guys. I genuinely really appreciate you watching it. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think about the book. Let me know what you think about the review. Check out some of the battle reports, do all that stuff. But thank you very, very much for watching. Cheers, guys.